The most addictive drug isn't a substance. It's a sporadic drop of affection from someone who habitually starves you of it. This isn't just poor communication or a bad mood. It's a meticulously crafted, often unconscious manipulation technique designed to ensnare and control. You are not simply dealing with an unpredictable person. You are caught in a psychological trap. Today, you will uncover the chilling mechanism known as the intermittent reward, a dark psychological tactic that transforms emotional connection into an insidious addiction. We'll lay bare precisely why victims find themselves unable to sever ties, why that glimmer of false hope feels so compelling, and why breaking free from these cycles demands profound self-awareness. Recognizing this particular dynamic isn't just about understanding manipulation. It's about reclaiming your very autonomy, your internal compass, from those who would hijack it. This knowledge is your shield against the most powerful, subtle forms of emotional coercion. This psychological weapon functions by exploiting a fundamental principle of human learning, one first meticulously documented in the early 20th century through the behavioral experiments of scientists like B.F. Skinner. Imagine a slot machine. It doesn't pay out every time, does it? If it paid out consistently, the thrill would vanish. If it never paid out, no one would play. But the unpredictable, variable nature of its rewards is precisely what makes it so compulsively addictive. It's a game of chance where the potential for reward, no matter how infrequent, keeps you pulling the lever. Your brain, craving that dopamine hit, becomes wired to persist through countless losses, all for the possibility of that next elusive win. This is a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it is exponentially more powerful than any consistent reward pattern. When reward is always present, you adapt. When it's never present, you disengage. But when it's unpredictable, when the reward could come at any moment, that's when compulsion takes root. Your neural pathways fire in anticipation, creating a state of perpetual seeking, an emotional hunger that overrides logic and self-preservation. Your psyche begins to chase the phantom. And if this explanation is already making uncomfortable connections in your mind, then pause for just a moment to consider hitting that comment button below with any initial thoughts and subscribing to the channel. Because every time you do, it signals to the platform that exposing mechanisms like the intermittent reward is vital work, helping more people find this knowledge and begin their journey toward freedom. This creates a perverse dynamic. The less consistently you receive affection, validation, or even basic respect from a source, the more intensely you crave and value those rare moments when they are provided. The scarcity makes the reward feel infinitely more precious, an emotional feast after a prolonged famine. You become conditioned to tolerate long periods of neglect, criticism, or even outright abuse, convinced that the next brief flicker of goodness from them will justify all the hardship. This is how the brain learns to prioritize hope over consistent well-being. This is how a simple biological learning mechanism becomes a sinister tool for control, trapping individuals in cycles that defy rational understanding. It is a psychological tether, invisible but incredibly strong. But where does this abstract psychological principle truly manifest itself? Where does this insidious mechanism operate, often completely undetected, in the raw reality of human connection? Everywhere. It is the very engine behind the notorious cycle of abuse, the reason victims often return, the glue that cements the trauma bond. Consider the toxic romantic relationship. It often begins with an intense period known as love bombing. Overwhelming affection, constant praise, a profound sense of being understood and cherished. Then, abruptly, the withdrawal begins. Periods of silence, emotional distance, subtle put-downs, outright discard, or inexplicable rages. You are left reeling, confused, desperately trying to understand what went wrong, convinced it must be your fault. Then, just as you begin to detach, just as the pain becomes too much, they reappear. This is the hoovering phase, a sudden, heartfelt apology, a declaration of how much they miss you, a promise that things will be different, a brief return to that intoxicating person from the love bombing phase. That brief, intense return to the good times is your intermittent reward. From the victim's perspective, this isn't just a reconciliation, it's a profound, almost spiritual relief. Your brain, starved of connection and racked with anxiety, floods with dopamine and oxytocin, associating the abuser not with the pain they inflicted, but with the relief from that pain. This emotional whiplash, this journey from profound distress to intense relief, creates a powerful, almost unbreakable bond, described by psychologists as trauma bonding. As first articulated by Patrick Carnes in the 1980s, trauma bonding occurs when a cycle of intense attachment, abuse, and then intermittent positive reinforcement creates a powerful emotional tie. You become addicted not just to the person, but to the possibility of their good self, constantly chasing that elusive reward that briefly eases the trauma. The psychological conditioning makes a seemingly good phase feel intensely rewarding, precisely because it follows a period of neglect or pain, thereby cementing the trauma bond. But this doesn't just play out in romantic relationships. Have you ever found yourself working tirelessly for a supervisor who only offers praise once every few months, but when they do, it's effusive, making all the prior neglect feel worthwhile? Or a friend who ignores your calls for weeks only to suddenly invite you to an exclusive event, drawing you back into their orbit with a surge of renewed hope? Even social media leverages this. The unpredictable like count, the unexpected viral post after hundreds of ignored attempts. You keep scrolling, keep posting, constantly pulling the lever for that elusive, validating hit. The manipulator, consciously or subconsciously, understands that inconsistency is their most potent weapon. They don't need to be constantly charming. They just need to sprinkle enough crumbs of validation to keep you starving, but hopeful, always tethered to their volatile presence. How then do you break free from these invisible chains? How do you dismantle a trap designed to exploit your deepest human needs for connection and belonging? There are 3 critical ways to recognize and neutralize the intermittent reward. First, learn to identify the pattern of radical inconsistency. This isn't just someone having a bad day. It's a systemic, unpredictable oscillation between extremes. Look for the feast or famine dynamic, overwhelming attention followed by stony silence, effusive praise followed by harsh criticism or subtle put-downs, grand gestures followed by profound neglect. The key signal is the lack of a stable emotional baseline. A healthy relationship, friendship, or work environment provides consistent respect, consistent support, and predictable boundaries. If you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, monitoring someone's mood, or waiting for the other shoe to drop, you are likely in an intermittent reward cycle. Start keeping a mental log, or even a private physical one, of these shifts. Don't rationalize their behavior. Simply observe the pattern. Second, reframe your perception of the good times. When the abuser suddenly becomes kind, apologetic, or attentive, that surge of relief you feel isn't genuine love or renewed connection. It's your brain's dopamine system lighting up, a physiological response to the cessation of pain or anxiety. It's the slot machine finally paying out. This is the exact moment the trauma bond is being reinforced. Instead of thinking, they finally came back to their senses, or they do love me after all, consciously tell yourself, this is the reward that maintains my addiction. This is the cycle reinforcing itself. Understand that this intense positive feeling is not a sign of their change, it's a signal of your conditioning. It is a calculated or at least instinctual lure. This perspective shift is vital. It transforms a moment of perceived warmth into a stark warning. Third, and perhaps most difficult, establish non-negotiable boundaries and enforce them with absolute consistency. The only way to break an addiction, psychological or otherwise, is to stop engaging with the source of the intermittent reward. This means going no contact or grey rock if direct avoidance isn't possible. It means no responding to breadcrumbs, no engaging with their apologies or promises, no falling for the charm offensive when they hoover. Every single time you respond to an intermittent reward, you strengthen the neural pathways that keep you tethered. You feel beep the bitty bits. This will feel agonizing at first. Your brain, craving that dopamine hit, will scream for engagement. You will feel an overwhelming urge to reconnect, to chase that phantom affection. Recognize that feeling as the withdrawal symptom of an addiction. The discomfort is a sign that the conditioning is breaking. True freedom begins the moment you refuse to pull the lever one more time. You now see the shadows behind the sporadic kindness, the calculated withdrawal, the sudden reappearances. The world isn't just people being moody or complicated. It's a landscape where unseen forces are at play, influencing behavior far more powerfully than overt demands. You've gained a new lens, one that illuminates the insidious power of psychological conditioning. Who offers inconsistent praise? Like this video now, and you'll have this defense method bookmarked, ready to access the moment you sense this pattern emerging in your own life. The intermittent reward is just one of many invisible chains that bind and break. Knowing it is the first step toward reclaiming your psychological autonomy. Arm yourself with awareness. Subscribe now, because the next profound exposure I'm unearthing could be the very key you need to unlock another hidden door to freedom.